It's Luke here of SimBoxx. Delighted this evening to be joined by the Trojan, Troy Williamson. Troy, how are we doing?
Yes, I'm good, Luke. Yourself?
Yeah, all good. Thank you. Thank you. So as we come into this interview here, we might as well grab the bull by the horns. We've got a few bits to talk about, but in the
Yeah.
last few minutes, we had the news of Daniel Dubois' potential IBF world title fight with Joe Joyce on this brilliant Riyadh teasing card this Saturday, looking like it's off, Troy. It's a bit of a disappointment. I'm sure as a boxer yourself, you're a boxing fan at heart. You'd just be as disappointed as the rest of us.
Yeah, hopefully it's untrue, but I've seen a few boxing related pages that have shown it that I can't see it being untrue, but I was really looking forward to that fight. Probably one of the main fights I was looking forward to on that card. It's a great fight, so hopefully it still goes ahead, but if not, I hope Daniel well.
Absolutely, yeah, second that. In terms of from your personal experience, Joe, have you ever been this late into a fight week and either had a fighter pulled out in terms of an opponent or had to pull out of a fight late yourself? You ever been in that position? Because we know it's an old boxing cliche that no fighter goes into the ring 100%, but have you ever been in a position like this yourself?
Um not that I recall. Obviously early on in my career when I was doing 4-6 rounds, I was fight week picking up little chest infection and flu, but obviously I was just continuing to fight. But so yeah, obviously it must be obviously it's obviously something serious for them to pull out the fight. So I wish him well.
Yeah, definitely. So in terms of pulling out fights, you say that early on in your career you might have had a bit of a flu or whatnot. Is he kind of like a barometer of what you'll accept going into the ring with, slight knocks? And is there a point where you go, no, no, this is definitely not something I can fight with? Is it, how do you judge what you can fight on with and what you can't?
Um,
Is it a decision for you to make, or does the team take it out of your hands?
yeah. Do you know what? I've gone in fights with like man, I shouldn't have really fought,
Mm,
and I've just kept it to myself. I've never told nobody because if I did tell my coach or my team like that the problem, then there's no way out of the box. But
yeah,
obviously, if any like probably because I'm a fighter and I want to fight and get in there and entertain people. All the tickets that I've sold, I don't want to let people down. So obviously, there probably is times where I shouldn't have fought when I have fought. So it's actually you just live and you learn, don't you?
yeah, absolutely. Try now, just quickly before we go on to yourself, we'll just look at that card a little bit. In terms of Batubia Bivol, the rematch, one of the best fights still that can be made in boxing. It was a great fight first time around. Are you expecting repeat or revenge in the light heavyweight world title fight?
I'm expecting revenge. I thought Bivol could have nicked it the first time round. It was a very, very close fight. You couldn't have argued either way. But yeah, I'm going with a Bivol win this time.
Yeah, it should be a great fight either way. A fight I'm sure you'll have a keen eye on is the WBC middleweight world title fight. Hamza Sheeraz going in with the defending champion Carlos Adames. How do you think the Brit will fare in this fight? Do you think he's going in as a favourite?
Do you know what? I've not seen much of Adames, but I always back my own. I hope she has. I hope we can pull it off and get the job done.
Absolutely. Obviously with Hamza Sheeraz, I know you was campaigning at 154 pounds for a long time, but was there ever a point where your paths could have crossed?
Yeah, obviously we were both with Frank Warren at one point. The fight was signed and sealed on two times. First time, obviously, I ended up getting an eye injury. I had laser eye surgery back in 2020, I think 2019, 2020, and then obviously I went back sparring too early, and my eye didn't recover, so I had to pull out the fight then. Then we signed the contract again, got it on for the second time, and then he ended up pulling out with an arm injury, what I believe. So the fight was obviously signed and sealed twice beforehand at 154, and it just never materialised. So who knows? Hopefully, he can pick up this WBC world title. Obviously, I'm a few wins from that, but who knows? Third time we can get it on.
Absolutely. Now, a lot's made of Hamza Shiraz, and I didn't actually know that the fight was signed a couple of times. Either, I didn't look into it or it slipped my mind. But with Hamza Shiraz, he has such physical advantages at the weight. He's almost a freak to be at that weight with the size and the
Yeah.
reach and whatnot of him. If you was in Adam's shoes, how would you approach that kind of fight? How do you beat someone with those kind of advantages that Hamza Shiraz possesses?
You got to just obviously weather the storm, go with him for the first few rounds, and if you can get him past 5 or 6 rounds, obviously, how's he going to cope? Nobody knows because nobody's gone that far yet. He's been blasting people out, but if you can weather the storm and go with him, try and put him on the back foot, then getting past 5 or 6 rounds and see what his engine's like.
Yeah, absolutely. We look forward to that fight. Another big fight that's been made under this Riyadh season, Ring Magazine banners. Chris Eubank Jr. against Conor Benn. That's going to be taking place in the middleweight division that you campaign in. What's your thoughts, firstly, on this, Troy? You know, when it was first announced, it was the Eubank Ben rivalry reignited, and then the waters kind of got muddied with Conor Ben's issues out of the ring, and it's all become a bit personal, a bit bitter. But it's going to be one hell of a show come April 26th. But what's
Yeah,
your
one
thoughts
million percent.
on the fight in terms of a middleweight against a welterweight? Take the names and everything out away from it. What's your thoughts on that?
Um, I think there's weight categories for a reason. But the fight's only happening because of Eubank Ben or Ben Eubank, whatever you want to call it. The fight's happening because of the surnames. Um, and you know what? If you asked me last year, my outcome, I'd have said Conor Ben. I think Conor Ben obviously was knocking people out, one punches, and he was looking devastating. But obviously he got caught with whatever he got caught with, and he's not the same fighter. I don't think he's got the explosiveness as what he did have, and now I think Eubank will beat him, and I think he'll stop him later on.
Interesting. Now, I did speak to Andy Clark. You know, he's a respected boxing pundit, if you like. He's a member of the media. And I asked him, and I'll ask you the same question. Does Conor Benn owe it to the British public to come out with more than just "I've been cleared, I'm free to get on with my career"? He's not come out with any justification of why these substances were found in the failed test. Do you believe that he owes it to the British boxing public to explain himself why it was there in the first place and why ultimately he's been cleared?
I think he should have owed it to himself as well. Like if that was me and that was and my name was tarnished, like I'd wanna prove my innocence.
Yeah.
That's a fact. But like I said, money talks in boxing, so that's the only reason I believe he's been cleared and the fight's happening.
Of course, now the fight is due to take place at 160 pounds. Originally, it was scheduled for 157. As a boxer that's made weight many, many a times, whether it be 154 or 160 that you're comparing it now, how much of a hindrance would that have been to Chris Eubank back then? Those £3, as you know, like £3 doesn't sound a lot when you say it to your everyday man, but as fighters that are boiling themselves down to that weight, how dangerous would that have been for Chris Eubank back in 2023? I think it was when the first fight was announced. How dangerous would that have been back then for Chris Eubank, do you think?
Would have been very dangerous because Conor Ben was juiced up and he was fucking he was an animal. He was knocking people out. So to drain Chris down that far and yeah, could have been bad to be fair. So I'm glad obviously the fight didn't happen because I don't believe that anybody should be on any advantages drugs wise. It's boxing's a dangerous sport as it is without taking drugs. So it's I like Conor Bennett also, but obviously what was found in his system can only be in in your system if you've took a drug. So um, I believe that drug cheat should be banned for life, not just a 3 month or a couple of years.
Absolutely, absolutely agree. Now, obviously, the fight is at 160. The is going to be a rehydration clause. I think it's going to be around £10 or so, maybe a little bit
Mhm.
less.
Yeah,
Again,
ten
do you
pounds I
think,
heard.
yeah, again, from your point of view of a fighter that's making weight, coming down on the Friday, and then being rechecked on the Saturday morning, how much of a hindrance is that as a fighter, Troy? Like, take it for give us the inside look, if you like, as a fighter yourself.
Yeah, I've had to do it myself when I defended my IBF European. It is it's a fucking it's a piss take because you can't rehydrate as much as you want. You can't drink as much food as you want.
Yeah.
So yeah, it isn't ideal.
It's quite interesting because it's something that's been brought up this week because it's this Riyadh season card. It's obviously fighters from all over the world coming over, but it's under the jurisdiction of the British Boxing Board of Control. And now
Yeah.
I believe they have a check weight on the Wednesday and then the actual weigh-in on a Friday. Is that common practice with all UK shows nowadays?
Only if you're fighting for titles.
Is
I,
that what it is? Yeah.
yeah, I believe so. So I don't know why that's happening because I don't think there's no title on the line.
Yeah, and Eddie was making the point that obviously he doesn't have the scientific background, nor do I, to fully explain it. But he says it's the British Boxing Board of Control don't want people crashing in weight to make weight on the Friday, and that they're making sure that they're doing it correctly. But Eddie then made the point of, well, if they're coming down on the Wednesday, going back up on the Thursday and back down on the Friday, is that not just as detrimental?
Exactly. That was my point in one of my last fights. Obviously, you basically, because obviously I was making 154, which was killing me. I was basically cutting weight for the check weight to then obviously drink me fluids and eat my food again to then go back up to weight. And then obviously when it came to the weighing day, I failed weight.
Yeah,
So obviously I was brought in front of the board to be like, well, you made weight on check weight. Why did you fail weight? But they don't understand, like you said, they don't understand because you're basically making weight
yeah.
to then leave fuel to then make weight again. It's not good for you, but it's not good. It's not good for you.
No, it doesn't sound great when, like you say, you've seen it firsthand. Try moving on to yourself. You've been out of the ring for coming on to a year now. It's seen through your social media that you're very frustrated. You've not been shy in venting those frustrations, and rightly so, trying to get yourself a fight. A couple of losses to Agiaco and to Ishmael Davis in good competitive fights. Where are we up to, Troy? Explain to us the reason for the absence.
Nobody wanted to fight. Basically, obviously, I moved to 160, and I understand people are obviously looking at me. I'm coming off two back-to-back losses. I'm easy to push aside. Like, well, he's lost his last two. What does he bring to the table? But everybody knows that moving up away at 160, I'm going to be a problem for anybody. So nobody wants to fight. We've had a few names mentioned. I've accepted them all. Um, at this stage in my career, it's like if I don't take the opportunity, if I don't take a chance, like who am I going to fight? Because I can't. I'm not interested in going fighting a journeyman over 6 rounds. I want to jump straight back into a big fight. The Nathan Hinney fight that got mentioned made sense. I believe we're both former British champions, both coming off loss, and he was just like saying that he doesn't entertain fights on Twitter. But where's he got to go now? The fight makes sense now. He's lost his last two by stoppage. I've lost my last two, so does he want to fight now? Like, where does he go now? He's lost. He's been stopped his last two, so he's got nowhere to go on if he didn't take the fight. So that's a fight that I'd be willing to take as well. But hopefully, I'm looking at getting out in April. Just obviously nothing being confirmed yet, but hopefully get that sorted this week or next. And yeah, you'll have some news soon.
What's the promotional situation like at the minute, Troy? Are you signed with anybody? Are you a free agent?
Now I'm a free agent. I've been since the Mason Cartwright fight. I've been for a few years. I've been just boxed on matchroom shows or Wasserman shows. So
I suppose that's a gift and a curse in a way, isn't it? Because it gives you the option to be able to float onto different networks, different promotions, but then at the same time, you don't have the security of being like, right, I'm with this promoter, he's going to line this up.
that's it.
It's a
Yeah,
gift and a curse, isn't it?
yeah. As its pros and cons,
Yeah,
obviously, like you said, I can jump on everybody's show, but I've lost my last two fights, so who really wants me on the show? Do you know what I mean?
yeah,
And that's the
absolutely.
but. Obviously, it would have been ideal if I held some sort of title. But that's coming. 2025. It's going to be a big year, I believe.
Absolutely. Oh, just going back to Nathan Heaney there, was it almost bittersweet when you see, obviously he was stopped in that fight, almost bittersweet in the fact that you watched it and thought, well, I would have done that job on him if I was given the opportunity. But then at the same time, maybe if he's going to retire now, it pushes that opportunity away. But then, as you say, maybe now it makes more sense than ever. So it's a bit of a 50-50 way of looking at it.
You know what? Obviously, I was obviously, I don't like obviously fucking. I'm never shit on anybody. I wouldn't kick anybody down. But obviously, I'd have wanted Nathan to win that fight. He's a Brit.
Yeah.
But obviously, for me, I think he chose the easy option, and he slipped up. He was winning the fight. He just slipped up.
Yeah, absolutely. Troy, just before we finished, there was one fight that I wanted to get your thoughts on. Earlier on when we was talking about Eubank Benn and whatnot, and these Riyadh season cards, it seems heavily rumoured again. It's on and it's off and it's on and it's off. But one of the biggest fights that can be made in the sport at the minute, and it's looking like September. Terence Crawford moving up to 168 pounds to take on Canelo for the world titles up at super middleweight. Now, you said earlier in terms of Ben Eubank, these weight classes for a reason. Is Crawford Canelo more of a more justifiable fight given both men's accomplishments?
Yeah, it's a massive fight. I think obviously. Did you say what weight was that there?
It's going up to 168 pounds, I believe.
Oh, sorry, that a
Yeah,
168. Yeah. Yeah, obviously I didn't know what weight it was. I've always said Terence Crawford would. be a nightmare for Canelo, depending on obviously what weight the fight would be at. But obviously 168, you've got to favour Canelo. He's a 168 fighter. Do you know what I mean? But if you pulled Canelo maybe down to 160 or catch weight 158, then I'd have favoured Terence Crawford. But again, obviously it's two great fighters. Put's one of my favourite fighters. So if it did happen, I'd tune in and watch.
Yeah,
But
absolutely.
at 168, it's you probably have to favour Canelo.
Absolutely. Now, one question that I put to Denzel Bentley, British middleweight champion, I said, of Ben moving up to fight Eubank or Crawford moving up to fight Canelo, of the two smaller men, underdogs, if you like, who would you give the greater chance of winning the fights, if that makes sense? Has Crawford got more chance of beating Canelo, or has Ben got more chance of beating Eubank?
I think Crawford's got more chance of beating Canelo.
You think?
Yeah.
Interesting. We look forward to both fights if they do happen. Troy, just to close out, all things being well, all things being good, what can the fans expect from the Trojan moving through into 2025?
I'm going to take over the domestic scene at first and then push on from there. It all starts in April, hopefully.
Yeah, fingers crossed. We look forward to a date in April. Troy, it's been a pleasure catching up. I appreciate your time. And thanks for speaking to SimBoxx. And I'm sure we'll catch up again soon.
Thank you, mate. Cheers.